especially because the SNP, I hear, is going to vote against this deal. Is that a protest vote, or would you prefer no deal at all?
What we would prefer is the deal that we already had. So we had a good deal as members of the European Union. This deal, which Boris Johnson is bringing back, is a really poor shadow of that deal. So his deal makes everyone in Scotland, everyone in the UK actually, worse off. So it's just not possible for us to support a deal that we know will do harm to all of the communities in Scotland. And of course, we're not alone in that. There are other parties similarly who are not supporting this. None of the parties representing Northern Ireland are supporting this deal. Plaid Cymru and Wales are not supporting this deal. The Green Party are not supporting this deal. And I suspect that the Liberal Democrats may not support this deal either. There's also a number of Labour MPs who won't support this deal, although confusingly for me, the Labour Party are backing up the Conservatives with this deal that they also know will make everyone poorer.
Well, Kirsten, I'm not sure it's that confusing. I mean, the Brexit train has really left the station. So even though I think a lot of economists would agree with you, the country will be worse off outside of the EU, it's far too late to vote on that. Right now, your choice is either this deal or no deal. So are you saying you'd prefer no deal?
No deal is actually not on the order paper for today. So the Conservatives will push this through the UK Parliament. There is no option for no deal on the order paper, but that doesn't mean that the deal that they're bringing back is something that we can support, and nor should we support it. The Scottish Government has...
Well, no, but if you vote this deal down, no deal's the only option. This is the only deal on the table right now. So if you vote this deal down, today's January 30th, right? If you vote this deal down, time runs out and you fall into no deal.
But regrettably, and it is regrettable that there is such a short time available, the Conservatives have a majority of 80 in the Westminster Parliament. So no matter what Scottish MPs do, and the SNP has 80% of Scottish MPs, so no matter that 80% of Scottish MPs at least do not support this deal, it will go through, and people in Scotland will unfortunately have to suffer the consequences of that. That's one of the big reasons.
Well, so it's a protest vote, which makes, I understand that. Although protest votes are kind of how you got into this in the first place, right?
I'm not sure.
I wonder...
Can I just say, in Scotland, we voted overwhelmingly to remain in the EU. So it is undoubtedly the case that England voted to leave the EU, and I respect that, and that's absolutely for people there to make that choice. But in Scotland, we did not vote for that. We then returned 80% of our MPs on a very strongly pro-European platform. Here in East Renfrewshire, 75% of people wanted to remain in the EU. And I think that it is undeniable that there is a strong pro-European feeling in Scotland. People don't want to leave, and I don't support us leaving.
Well, that brings me very well to the next question, which I'm sure you have been asked a lot over years and years, but doesn't it make the most sense now then, Kirsten, to take Scotland out of the UK and just join the European Union?
It does. It absolutely does. And so, I was saying 17 consecutive polls now are showing that people in Scotland favour independence as the best way forward for Scotland, the way that we can make our own decisions to suit the people who live here. And Europe is a big part of that. Scotland is very pro-European. So to be able to have that seat at the top table in the EU, to be able to influence things in the way that is best for the people here is increasingly attractive, and it's increasingly obvious that it's the only way that we're going to get the right outcomes for the people here in Scotland when we see the contrast with the direction of travel from Westminster, which really doesn't reflect what people in Scotland want, and which is running completely contrary to all of the efforts that the Scottish Government have made to engage with the UK Government to put forward compromises, and these things have all been roundly ignored. So I think it's undeniably time for us to take our own path here.
How quickly can you get another referendum on the schedule then, Kirsten? I mean, how quickly do you think you can make this happen?
Well, sooner rather than later. And, ultimately, the future of Scotland is up to the people who live in Scotland. So, that's an opportunity that will be presented to them to make that choice. It's not for anybody else to make it for the people here. Everybody here will have that choice. But I think that it's certainly something that has to happen sooner rather than later now, because we can see that there is such a divergence in aspiration. And also there is significant concern, as you would imagine, about the impact of this Brexit deal on areas all over Scotland, whether that be students who would have previously been able to take part in the Erasmus scheme to broaden their horizons, or our fishing communities who were promised a sea of opportunity. And it turns out that actually for many of them, what they will now have is worse than what they already had. So things are not looking positive in terms of the Brexit deal, and therefore it is time for us to take a different path.
Kirsten, will you be able to convince Boris Johnson to allow a referendum, or does that not matter to you? Would Scotland go ahead with what the UK would see as an illegal referendum?
I think that's a really interesting way and that you've phrased that. So, would Boris Johnson allow... Now, it's actually not for Boris Johnson to allow a referendum in Scotland. Boris Johnson is not the person who decides the future of Scotland. The people who decide that are the people who live here. So Boris Johnson may very well suggest that he would not permit that. But of course, it's not his choice. Boris Johnson can't stand in the way of democracy, and would do very well not to try and stand in the way of a country deciding its future.